The Great Molasses Flood, an unusual disaster in history. In the heart of Boston, Massachusetts, on January 15, 1919, an unprecedented event unfolded, a tragedy that would be remembered not just for its magnitude, but for its uniqueness. The Purity Distilling Company's storage tank, filled to the brink with molasses, unexpectedly exploded. The tragedy that ensued would be known as the Great Molasses Flood. The day of the incident was unlike any other. The city was busy and vibrant, brimming with people going about their daily lives. A bustling city, not aware of the catastrophe about to descend. The storage tank was a beast, 50 feet tall and 90 feet in diameter. Holding over 2.3 million gallons of molasses, it was a looming monument of the manufacturing industry. Its contents were not for sweetening the city's pies, but for creating industrial alcohol. The molasses was fermented to produce ethanol, a key component for making munitions. But on that fateful day, the enormous tank burst, releasing a tsunami of molasses onto the city streets. A sticky wave, 25 feet high, traveling at 35 miles per hour. The force was so powerful, it crushed buildings, lifted a train off its tracks, and swept humans and animals in its sticky tide. It wasn't just a flood, it was destruction, thick and unstoppable. The North End neighborhood of Boston was the most affected. People were trapped in the viscous fluid, struggling to free themselves, while others were swept away, helpless against the molasses tide. First responders faced an unimaginable challenge. The molasses, initially fluid, began to harden, making rescue efforts increasingly difficult. Horses, the main means of transport at the time, were stuck, struggling, some even dying in the sticky mess. The cleanup was a Herculean task. Rescuers and volunteers worked tirelessly, using salt water to dissolve the molasses and sand to absorb it. The cleanup took weeks, the city's streets sticky and brown. Fatalities reached 21, while 150 were injured. The cause of the disaster wasn't immediately apparent, sending ripples of fear and uncertainty through the city. Accusations were flung at the Purity Distilling Company. The company claimed the tank had been sabotaged, an act of anarchists, shifting the blame from their shoulders. However, investigations following the tragedy revealed a different story. The tank, it was found, was riddled with structural faults. The walls of the tank were too thin to hold the massive quantity of molasses. It was also uncovered that proper safety tests had been ignored. The aftermath of the flood led to changes in industrial safety regulations in the United States. The tragedy brought about stricter oversight and laws to prevent such incidents in the future. The Great Molasses Flood is a stark reminder of industrial negligence. It underlines the importance of regulations, safety checks, and oversight principles we often take for granted today. While Boston has moved on, the memory of the flood lingers. The city bears no visible scars, but the event is remembered, a sweet tragedy etched in its history. The site of the disaster is now a recreational area, a baseball field. The tank, the molasses, the destruction are all gone. In summers, locals claim they can still smell the faint scent of molasses in the air. A sweet reminder of a tragic event, a history lesson for future generations. The Great Molasses Flood was a disaster unique in its nature. It was a horrifying event, yet it led to positive change, forever impacting industrial safety. Our journey down the memory lane ends here. The Great Molasses Flood, a sweep of destruction, a wave of change, a reminder of the past, a lesson for the future. A sweet disaster that left a bitter aftertaste. The tale of the Great Molasses Flood is a fascinating one, a blend of tragedy, history, and change, a story worth remembering.